So, hi everyone. So, today I will be reporting about one of the informal fallacies in logic. It is called the fallacy of accident. And no, it is not about car accidents, it is actually about reasoning errors. So, this fallacy happens when someone applies a general rule to a situation where that rule really shouldn't be applied. It might sound logical at first, but when you take a closer look, something is off. So let us dive into the details. So, what exactly is this fallacy? The fallacy of accident happens when someone takes a rule that's generally true, like a law, a principle, or even a moral guideline, and applies it to a case that's actually an exception to the rule. So the mistake here is assuming that rules are absolute and should apply to all situations, when in fact, real life is full of exceptions. So this kind of reasoning might seem harmless at first, but it can lead to unfair or even harmful conclusions if we are not careful. So to understand it better, let us break down the basic structure. First, there is a general rule, let's say freedom of speech should always be protected. Then someone tries to apply that rule to a very specific case. For example, someone inciting violence. Because they're ignoring the context or the exception, they end up with a conclusion that doesn't make sense. The key point here is the rule itself isn't the problem. The way it is applied is the problem. So here is our first example. Freedom of speech is a constitutional right. Therefore, John Q. Radical shouldn't be arrested for his speech that incited a riot. Now, at first glance, this sounds logical. We all agree freedom of speech is important. But the issue is not all types of speech are protected, especially if they cause harm. So like starting a riot. So even though the general rule is valid, it doesn't apply in this case. So that's where the fallacy of accident comes in. The rule is being used where it shouldn't be. So next, let's look at another example. People should keep their promises. Jessica promised to stay with Tyler for life, so she should stay with him even though he's now abusive and addicted to drugs. Again, the general rule sounds good. We all want to be people who keep our word, but in this case, staying in a harmful or unsafe relationship isn't something we should promote just because of a promise made in the past. So the context has changed, no? Tyler is no longer the same person Jessica married, so this is another clear case of the fallacy of accident. The general rule ignores the current reality. So, why is this kind of reasoning considered a fallacy? It is because it ignores the exceptions, where the accidental or unusual features that make the case different. Not every situation fit neatly under a general rule. When we fail to look at the full context, we end up applying rules too rigidly and leads to bad decisions or conclusions. And this fallacy reminds that logic isn't just about following rules blindly. It is also about understanding when those rules don't apply. So here is a quick summary to compare both of the examples previous kaganiha side by side, no? So in both cases, the general rule is fine. So freedom of speech, keeping promises, those are good principles, but the specific cases, inciting a riot and being in an abusive marriage, those are exceptions where the rules doesn't apply the same way. So that is exactly what the fallacy of accident does. It skips over those exceptions and applies the rule anyway. So to wrap it up, The fallacy of accident is all about misapplying general rules to specific cases that don't really fit. So it reminds us to always look at the context, not just the rules. Life is full of gray areas, and as thinkers, especially in logic or even in real world decision making, we need to recognize when it's time to adjust or pause a general rule. So next time someone says, "But that's the rule," ask yourself, does it really apply here? So yeah, thank you for listening, and once again, good day.